Say the question again.
Okay. Sometimes when you knock someone out, or if they're in meditation, they'll have a flashing light on the side, like a light flash, like it's like a light bulb. Or sometimes it's like a quick flash, like quick flash. Maybe you could talk about what that is. Those lights, the flashing lights.
Okay. Thank you for that question, and I will continue, preferably without anybody else interjecting. And this is how it goes. Uh, Many times in meditation or during my healing sessions, and I think that's where you're coming from right now, live yoga, you will experience a blinding flash, a white light. There can be many variations to this experience, but it's one thing is clear, that it is not a light that is coming from outside of you. It is a light that is coming from inside of you. And what is that? There are many different answers to this, but let us understand the science, and then you decide what it is that you have. Now, we have different aspects that we need to talk about and to think about before we come to try and understand what these flashing lights are. Okay? And what I'll do is I'll make a few points to remember to talk about. One of them is death experience or near death experience. One of them is the eidetic vision or eidetic, as some people call it. Vision. Okay. And the other is the very close to the eidetic vision or eidetic vision, which is more like an experience that comes because of the pituitary and pineal gland and connected in a more mystical sense and connected with a more understanding from the Hindu perspective. Okay? And that is the Ajna Chakra. There are a few other situations like this. Now remember, I am speaking extempore, so I do not have a book before me and I am not prepared to speak. So I may not be dead on with the information, but I always strive to be that way. So having said that, let's move on. Now I know what you spoke about was not a near-death experience vision, but let us go with that. Many people who have died, especially on operation theaters, tables, right, in emergency, in ER, they have left their physical body. Now there is proof to believe that they were not dead, even though they were recorded as dead because their heartbeat stopped and they were having no signs of life based on our present knowledge of medical science and our present understanding of the human body. Okay? But they could narrate very clearly the conversations. I mean, this is not something that you can make up. Okay? This is not something you can fabricate. They would tell about conversations that were taking place at the operation table between the doctors, saying things like, oh my God, we lost him, we lost her, she's gone, stuff like that. But not only that, they could actually tell about communication that was going on down the corridor where they couldn't have in any way, physically or otherwise, possibly being there to hear what those people were saying. Now that's a bit phenomenal and definitely supernatural. But why I say all this is because all this goes around with what their personal experience was. And they would say that they would be sitting or looking up from the ceiling. But one thing they would say is they would go through a dark tunnel and they would experience a white light. And this is connected with all the different cultures and all the different religions, whether you are Hindu, Muslim, Jain, Buddhist, Christian, Baha'i, whatever. The experience was the same. The description was different. So the Christian said, they saw a Christ-like figure, or they experienced Christ consciousness. And the Hindu would say they experienced Krishna. So in other words, it was their interpretation of what they had seen that got the religious aspects true. Well, in reality, the spiritual experience was the same, and they saw a white light, and they were engulfed in this white light, and sometimes they felt that they were in the presence of their near and dear ones. Sometimes they felt that there was a very spiritual entity, a figure like Christ or Buddha or Mahavir talking to them. And almost in every case, they were told, you have to go back, your time has not come. And then they returned to the table. Now, the possibility of this light could be because in the emergency room, there are bright white lights above your head when the operation is going on. This is one of the suggestions. I'm a very skeptical person, not because I'm a skeptic, but because I would like to get a better analysis of what is happening rather than project my own opinions and thoughts and my own belief system onto this situation. So it's possible that they had seen these white lights, bright white lights above the operation table, and that was an afterglow of that white light, which was stuck in their minds, and the darkness was because of the experience of leaving the body and then the after flash of that white light that they were seeing. Because in almost all cases, people who saw this were in a light situation where there was a lot of light and then they experienced this. And that is what the near-death experience light is. But in meditation, many people have, and this is a scientific fact, I may not be telling it to you in the exact medical chronology that I'm supposed to do, but when we focus on something for a while, a light, it could be a candle, it could be a bulb of some sort, it could be, don't do direct observation, but it could be sunset, where you can actually watch the sun and not when it's midday. And if we do that for a while, in a gentle, relaxed manner, if we concentrate on these lights, when we close the light, by closing our eyes, that is, when we go away from that, you see an afterglow of that light. With your eyes closed, you can see that light. And that is called the eidetic vision, the eidetic vision. So, and many times I do that with Tratrak, that is the Sanskrit word for candle meditation. And when I close my eyes, not only do I see the candle flame with my eyes closed, and you can try it, it's nothing great, you don't have to achieve superpowers to be able to do that. It's a very, very normal medical phenomena. And when I close my eyes, I can even feel the flicker of the light in the afterglow, which is not the real candle, but that's like a recording that took place. Okay? So, what is happening here is your mind is absorbing that light and it is giving it back to you. Now, there are cases where people see very bright and instant flashes of light. That's a whole different phenomena. Okay? And when you said, when I slay people, or in whatever words you put it, when I knock them out, that's a gift I have. That's my siddhi. Okay? Which came to me as a result of deep meditation and a lot of practices which involved seeking God in the way that I was doing it in those days. And I've experienced these lights. But when I touch people and they get slain in the spirit, or when they get what Osho used to call energy darshan, the touch of God. Remember, I have an instrument, okay? Then they experience these lights, and that is basically a byproduct of the activation of the Shakti, of the Kundalini. Okay? What is Kundalini? That's the next question. Kundalini is the arousal of the energy which is in the root chakra, in the Mooladhara, which is near the anus. Between the anus and the sexual organ, there is a place called the perineum. That is the exact root place. It is the pedestal for pedestal for the sexual region. The triangular khanda, what they call in Sanskrit, above the groin, is the pedestal for the emotional region. So sexual, emotional, and the neck is the pedestal for the intellectual region. So these are the three intelligences that we have. I think, I feel, I desire. Platonic love, romantic love, erotic love. Cheeks for intellect, breasts for emotions, butt cheeks for sexuality. Three intelligences that developed evenly. Now, when the energy is going from the Muladhara, from the lowest region, it goes up the Mirudanda or the spine in the vertebrae. Okay, that is the cerebrospinal fluid in a very physical form. But because it is very high energy, it is called Kundalini in a mystical sense. In fact, just 5 or 6 days ago, I was feeling the throbbing in the back because I have an active Kundalini. Okay, and what it was doing is felt like a worm was wriggling in my back, and I stopped everything and I paused and I said, "Let me observe." And it went on for a while. It went on for a while. And then when I took my focus off, it stopped for a little while, then it started again. So this is nothing but the cerebrospinal fluid reversing. Now the good thing about that is you will live longer, you live more spiritual, you have more connection with other dimensions. The bad thing about it is you're not supposed to have sex after that because you lose it. Because the very energy that goes out in a sexual intercourse is the energy that reverses and goes back upwards. And that's why a person who is able to do that is called an Urdhva Retas. Urdhva means up, like Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog. Urdhva Retas means a person who can retain things upwards. And that energy goes up slowly over the 7 chakras, and I'll name them to you fast. Don't go blah blah blah, but that's okay because it's Sanskrit. Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Ajna, and the 7th one is the brain, the 1,000 petal lotus called the Sahasrara. And when it goes into the Sahasrara, you are a liberated being. But it will keep coming up. When it reaches the Ajna, in my case, you can feel throbbing. I feel a lot of throbbing and a tingling and all happening over here. But the Guru can only take you up to the Ajna. Beyond that, only the interdimensional gurus or the gods or people like Christ and Krishna or whatever else you may want to believe in, only they can take you there. Only that at the right point when your karma is complete, you will be able to experience liberation. A person who is able to open the third eye is an enlightened person, a master in his own rights, but he is not a liberated person, and he will come back to the earth until he is able to reach the Sahasrara, the 1,000 petal lotus. So coming back to the question, which I seem to have forgotten. So, flashing lights. Thank you, dear. So what happens in the case of flashing lights is the experience is like something that happens to you when you are moving interdimensionally. Sounds very hi-fi, I understand, but it's a very simple thing. Okay? What is happening to you is you are going through a gateway. I'm not talking about the gateways that they talk about for the UFOs and for interdimensional travels within the material universe. That's a different kind of gateway. And there are gateways like that, and I sincerely believe they exist in places like Sedona and Woodstock, and even in a place called Ekaterinburg in the Ural Mountains, because I tend to end up in these places. I don't know how or why. Okay, so there are gateways, but this is an interdimensional gateway at an individual level. And that is why people have deep spiritual experiences along with these lights. Like they will feel completely out of body, or they'll feel unable to move their bodies, and at the same time not scared, just completely peaceful. Like the psalmist says, "Be still and know that I am God." So they have these experiences, and that is what makes me believe, and this is coming from my Parinama, I think is the right word, from my own perception and from my own experience, that these lights are kind of signs or byproducts or symptoms of my transferring from my physical body to another body, or out of this physical body into another dimension. And these lights are kind of inexplicable, but what follows these lights proves one thing, that the experience that you have after these lights is where you fall down. When I touch you, you have these lights, right? When you fall down on the ground and you feel completely empowered but powerless over your own body. If you know what I'm talking about, it's difficult to explain this experience, where you feel completely light or completely heavy, very heavy, or you feel very minute, or you feel very big. These are called the main five siddhis. There are five of them actually, total I mentioned four. But to have these experiences is to move interdimensionally into another realm, into a spiritual dimension, into a different frequency, like Tesla said so beautifully, Nikola Tesla. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay? We vibrate at different frequencies. When we are in the body, we are limited. As long as we are entrapped in this body and have not learned to escape, we are limited to only a certain frequency range, what we have termed in this creative experience, in this world phenomena. We have called it sound at 0 to 2000 decibels, or infrared to violet, even though now we have got equipment to measure infrared and ultraviolet, but there are more frequencies. Okay, so what is happening is, when we go beyond these frequencies, we are going beyond the sense organs, and the sense of sight, which is coming from the eyes, is being hampered a little, and that's why these lights come along. Okay, whether you like it or not, your eyes will be closed. So for your eyes to be closed and you see the light, means it's not from this dimension. We are changing frequencies of a spiritual body, which releases us from our physical body. I also believe sincerely that we will have the same experience as at death. So the deep experiences that we have in meditation when we are alone is because we have received a touch from an interdimensional being somewhere that we can't see. You can call it God, you can call it a spirit, you can call it an entity. Depends on what you believe is the vibration of this thing that is causing the light. You'll say entity when it's a little low, okay, and you'll say God when you feel it's very high, okay, or when it's somewhere in between, you'll say spirit. This is all technical stuff. Now, the best way to experience these lights, because even if you can consciously create a dimension in which you experience these lights, the best way to do that is to take an initiation from a guru. Because when you do that, your ability to transfer yourself into another dimension becomes extremely easy compared to otherwise. And why is that so? Because I give certain techniques, I use certain energies, I use certain mantras to change the frequency. It is called a guru mantra, where I empower the person to have this transformation take place. And nobody till today has been able to deny the experiences they've had when they've taken initiation from me. 2 of the people here, I will not mention from the 5 that we have, are initiates of mine. Okay? So, these lights are basically a bearer of good news, right? Because if it's helping you to travel. Also, the fact that you can talk about them means you have gone there and come back. But if you practice the techniques that I show you, after initiation, many people get lost in their own world and very few come back. Even Christ said, where are all those other people that I worked with? And you have come back? What about the others? So very few come back, but that is the nature of the beast. That's a metaphor, an American metaphor, which means that's the way it is. But if you were to come back after an initiation, after time, I'll be able to take you into the next level, and the next level. And remember, I'm an instrument again in this. Okay? God has no physical attributes. God creates physical attributes through changing frequencies from subtle to gross and that is how creation is made. Okay? So beyond these flashing white lights, if you come to a point where you can see like a white, peaceful, white, I can't explain even white, but it's cooling. It's a cooling white glow at the back of your forehead. And you can't see it. The moment you try to look at it, it moves away to the back even more. But you can feel it. And if you experience that, then you have come close to the dimension of moving ahead into the Sahasrara. And many people who have this glow will have a kind of a white light over their heads. The Christians call it the golden bowl, and they paint all the saints with them around them. And the yogis call it the aura. People call it the aura. The yogis, all religions, holy people have that painting. Whether they have the glow or not is a different thing. But they have, that is representing the moving of the Shakti, the moving of the Holy Spirit, the moving of the Kundalini into the Sahasrara. So, very importantly, what we need to do is we need to go deeper into these experiences. We need to understand these experiences better. We need to get more and more of these lights, but you can't do it consciously. But in order to do it, there are several things that you can do. It's like going to sleep. You don't stand up and say, okay, I'm going to sleep. You can't do that. There are certain pre-preparatory and preparatory moves that you got to make in order to get sleep. You need to put the lights down. You need to pull the curtains. You got to, if you have an air conditioner, you want to regulate the temperature. You want to lie in a horizontal position, the one that works best for you, on your back, prone, or on the sides. You want to cover yourself a little, and then you want to close your eyes, and you start a little of dream state type of thing, There's a nice word for it. Doesn't matter. But it's basically alpha. You're going into a different frequency. And then you go to sleep. But you don't know. Nobody till today can tell at what point they fell asleep. They only know that they had fallen asleep when they wake up. So in the same manner, to get closer into these lights, and this is what I teach during my initiations. This is what I do to people. In order to do that, you must learn how to put off your lights. In the metaphor, okay? Not physically that. If you really want to do this, you'll have to come to me and learn from me. But like in the metaphor, you'd have to pull the curtains, control the temperature, lie horizontal position, and I'll tell you what is best for you to try, and then you cover the sheet. So in other words, you'll do certain preparatory things which will lead to the experience of these lights and which will lead to the experience of superconsciousness. And that is Samadhi. I hope I've been able to help you in answering that question. It was a little prolonged. I always use people's questions to kind of go around and generalize and get more information from around to teach them accordingly. And without doubt, I did the same thing today also. So thank you for asking that question, dear. God bless.